Hello, modern Canadian living enthusiasts. Welcome to the Chicken Tractor Tour. That's right, I said chicken tractor, and you're probably thinking, what is this guy crazy? That's not a tractor. That's not a tractor I've ever seen. Well, it's called a chicken tractor or turkey tractor because with the birds in it, as you move it forward, like you'll see us do throughout the shorts and the updates, the chickens and turkeys and the other birds in there perform similar functions to a tractor. They seed, they don't seed, sorry, they weed, they fertilize the ground, they till up the soil, they get it all mixed and ready to go. Hence the name chicken tractor, or in our case, chicken and turkey tractor, because we got both in there. So for this one here, we decided to build it. We purchased the plans off the internet. We watched a whole bunch of videos over about a year and a half. There are so many different models out there, and this one's right for us, but it may not be right for you. There are the low ones, there's the Joe Saladin style, there's the high ones, there's ones like this that's more of a high tunnel. Many different versions. Key is to find something that works for you and makes it easy for you to just keep up the habit of moving the birds forward and getting them on fresh pasture, because that's the whole point of one of these, is to reduce the costs and have a better life for the birds while they're with us, right? So we picked up the plans off the internet, like I said, after looking over many different pictures and styles out there, watching many YouTube videos, looking at pros and cons of everybody's. And we decided on this one. We did make some modifications to it, and I'll show you as we go through it. But it is made out of cattle panels on the side here. They're hooped over, bent over to give us the structure of the unit itself. We got the wood framing, all pressure treated wood, so it doesn't rot or have any problems in the future. Always hoping to get 10, 15 years out of this thing. And then the entire thing is covered in 19 gauge coated hardware cloth. It's half-inch grill, so it helps keep the predators out. And then along the bottom, we added in some leftover deer fencing that we had just to prevent any digging predators to get in. Finally, we covered it with a white tarp. White help keep it cool, keep the sun off of them, give them a little bit of a wind barrier too. A couple of the modifications we made was well, first off, with the cattle pads, we decided to weld them together. Where we are, we do have coyotes. We see them all the time in the backyard. We have foxes. We have deer. We have a whole bunch of wildlife that runs around through here. And we didn't want anybody getting on top and their weight, especially, coyotes could be heavy at times. Not the heaviest, not like a big dog, but you know what I mean. They didn't want them to risk pushing it or finding a way in. So we did decide to tack weld the two panels together, because this one's made up of two panels. You can make a 3-panel one or a 4-panel, as big as you want. This thing's set up to hold about 30 birds, but I wouldn't put more than 20 in here. Like, honestly, like we've only got 15 in here currently, and that's kind of where we're probably going to stick with them from this side. But it works great. We did also decide to wire stitch. That's right. We spent the time to wire stitch, taking a thin piece of wire and going through everywhere that the panels and the cloth, hardware cloth overlap. And we also decided to do that anywhere that two pieces of hardware cloth overlap, if there were different pieces being used, just to really get it in tight, make sure that no creatures can get through, and even rats and mice. We can't fully keep them out, but we do what we can to try, right? So we have our two dishes hanging up front. We got the food over here, currently using an 11-pound food hanger. And then we've got the Home Depot bucket. Yeah, great for a whole bunch of things, right? You never know. Um, Filled with water. So they eat and drink a lot, a lot. Anybody who's ever raised broilers before will tell you that these little piggies, I mean, that's what we can nickname them. They just consume so much. They eat about the same amount of food with water. And what we do is we give them 12 hours on. So in the morning, we put the food out for them. And at night, when the sun is setting, we take the food away. They still have the pasture to eat if they want, but they get water 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We don't close on holidays. It's a farm, right? So they get that. And they also get the pasture. So they eat all the bugs and the grass and the little bits of clover and stuff that are in there. And just gives them a variety on top of the little bits of food scraps that we'll give them too. So, like I was saying, it's made out of pressure treated wood. This includes the roosting bars inside. There is a possibility of putting a nesting box on this, but as we have our egg laying flock in another area over there, this is only going to be used for meat birds, whether it be turkeys or chickens. They'll Probably going to end up having a couple of these roaming around the property. This was the first one we built. You can see that we started putting the frame together. From the frame, we bent over the cow panels, the hog panels, depending on which ones you want to use. You can also use sheep panels for that matter. The difference is basically the spacing in between them. We bent those over, secured those down to the bottom frame, and then from there it was hardware cloth time. Covered the thing, stitched it all together like I was talking about earlier, making sure to spend the time to get all the cracks and all the corners down tight so that there's no open holes or gaps. Once that was done, we went back and cut off all the little sharp bits so that the birds and the tarp won't, get hurt, get damaged, or anything like that. We then added in the 2 bars for the food and the extra little pieces that you see lying around. There's some holes for the rope, built the wheels and got them put on the back, and started using it. So this is the wheel system that I was talking about. Pretty simple design. There's many versions of it out there, but it's a couple of bolts, a wheel, and it's basically just a lever system. Push down, you can see it lifts it up, and then once it's up in the air, both sides are exactly identical. All you have to do, put the lock, and there you go. It's raised up, and do the same to this side. And now you can go in front, grab the rope, pull it forward. And then once you pull it forward the distance that you want, just a simple reversal of the process. Undo, flip down, undo, flip down. And they're back on level ground, ready to continue their move. Some important tips when moving the chicken tractor is always be sure to check the ground thoroughly. We lost a bird, and we're not 100% sure because we didn't have a camera in here to see what happened. But the next day after losing the bird, we found mushrooms on the grass. And then we realized that we've been seeing awesome, cool mushrooms on the property since we bought it a year ago. And it dawned on us that it is possible that one of them, the one that passed away, could have eaten a mushroom. So just make sure that whenever you go to move the chicken tractor forward, you know where they're going. You know what they're going to be on. There's not any metal bits, any garbage sitting there, anything they shouldn't eat, like some poisonous mushrooms, right? After all, that's our food. So what goes into them goes into us. And we want to make sure they make it to the finish line. Something else to consider with all chicken or turkey tractors is the little extras on the side. We use deer fencing, but you can use anything hardware cloth, deer fencing, leftover cattle panel material, anything that'll stick out anywhere from 18 inches to 2 feet. The reason we have that is we want to make sure that no predators can go and dig. So if they were to come and try and dig, they don't usually dig more than 2 feet out. So what would happen is they'd come here, they'd be on the metal, they'd try and dig, they'd hit the barrier, in this case, the deer fencing, and it just helps keep the birds inside that much safer. Another little tip is if you are putting, and I highly recommend, some type of protection that skirting around the outside of your tractor, at first you are going to need to weigh it down with some extra weight. Um, Chickens, kind of like any other little baby out there, they can get their head through it, they can get their body through it. And being that they are very small when we first put them out here, we want to make sure that they can't get into any of the holes. Our ground isn't perfectly level everywhere, so there are little divots. So what we do is we put the wood on top of the um, deer fencing that we have, just to make sure that the birds can't get under there for the first week or so. Once they get to a certain size, it's no longer an issue. We take the wood off, as you can see, and we no longer have a use for it as we drag the tractor forward. Another little tip we'd like to give is if you are building something like this, they are a little bit heavy, right? With the wood and the metal and everything. So what we've noticed and something we're going to do is the bottom skids on either side. The back gets lifted up with the wheels, rolls nice. The front, even though you're lifting and pulling, it can catch on the grass every now and then. So what we're going to do is, we live in Canada, we get winter, and we have things called crazy carpets. If you're not sure what a crazy carpet is, put a little video up here or over here or somewhere around just so you can see. Um, they're they're a Canadian toy, more of a rite of passage, I would say. Crazy carpets. Every Canadian in winter we use these things. It's a piece of plastic, thin piece of plastic that'll send you hurtling down a snow-covered hill at mind-boggling speeds, hopefully avoiding death and injury and just having fun along the way. But what we're going to do is we're going to take one of those, turn into little slits, and we are going to put them underneath the front, I don't know, about 2 feet of the side pieces, just to make sure that it slides that much easier as we lift and pull. Some of you might be wondering what the extension cord's for. Well, when we bring them out from the brooder, we do have a heat lamp, which is currently just up there out of the way. So we plug it in for the first week, 2 weeks, depending on the temperatures. If we had started this batch earlier in the season, we probably wouldn't have needed it for more than a day. But because we did start them later, it was end of August. And we did have some cold nights. It was just a weird year weather-wise. So we did decide to move the heat lamp outside. So for the first week or so, while they were further back that way, they did have it. We will be taking this out of the tractor now, along with the heat lamp, putting it back away for our next use. Another thing not to forget with chickens and turkeys is the grit. So what you see them currently chowing down on right here, they're not actually eating it. It's a mix of sand and oyster shells and other little rocky pebble type things. Chickens and turkeys don't chew and digest like we do. They take stuff into their crop and then they use this to help break it down and digest it. So it's very important to make sure that every time you fill up the food and the water, you make sure that the grit bowl is full too, to help keep the roots healthy. Like I was saying earlier in the video, this tractor was built for turkeys and chickens. Actually, this one is going to be used for turkeys. That's why the roost bars over here are a bit higher off the ground than they normally would. So to help combat that, we just put in a nice little swing and branch for them. They come up and roost on that every night, and it just keeps them off the ground. Gotta think smart when you're trying to save money and do little things like this on a farm. We all know the age we live in, right? Modern Canadian world. Thanks for sticking around till the end of this video. Hope everyone enjoyed our little tour of the chicken/turkey tractor, some of the lessons and changes we've made. I would encourage you all to look into different options. Don't just go for the first one that is out there that you see come across on the internet or wherever it may be, but do the research. If you're going to do something, it's worth putting the time and effort in to do it right, to make sure that it lasts long and that you get the enjoyment and use out of it that you're planning on getting. So make sure you like, subscribe, turn on those YouTube notifications, follow us on Facebook. You don't want to miss any part of the journey or the other upcoming videos, including the video for the upgraded egg layer run. Stay tuned.